with the Morning Magazine. Here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 as well as on the web at WFHR.com. It's time for our monthly visit with Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink. Also in the studio is River Cities Media. And they're here, and if you're watching the replay on River Cities Media, you're going to see new chairs. We won't have that sinking feeling for my guests anymore. And we also have a new mic mixer, so we're going to be sounding a lot better.
And they're comfortable chairs, too, Carl.
Yeah. And our engineer got them for a great deal online.
All right. What a theory.
What a theory. This is our time of the month when the mayor is open to taking your questions. I know there's an election coming up. We're going to stay away from that. I want questions about specific issues that the mayor or common council or his staff can address. There'll be a candidates forum for that. And this completes, quite honestly, his first term on the radio, at least. Next month, either he'll be back here or we'll have Mary Jo Carson in that seat. Either way, for me, it's a good thing because I don't have to train anybody. They both know how
right.
the show goes.
Silver lining, right?
There's a silver lining for me. First off, good morning, sir.
Thank you for having me.
We're wrapping up winter, and we get another messy snow, and the crews had to go. Yes. Driving around, and everybody's commenting, boy, oh boy, the roads are really in bad shape because of the hard winter. It's a story being told across the country. There was a huge story in the USA Today last week about it. So what kind of impact is that having on the city, its budget, and its plans for the upcoming construction season?
Well, we feel it on the roads, there's no question. And we've seen it in the water main breaks. There's just the dramatic one on A Street just the other day. And so we're not out of the woods yet. While the snow melt and the pack has melted off the streets, there's still concern as that frost comes out of the ground, and with the frost being down so far this year, that's why we're seeing some of the real rough road conditions. And of course, the plows weren't, hitting a lot of the up, kind of the elevation differences in the road. Really created some problems for us too. So once we get to the spring months, they're going to do a full assessment again, as they do every year, to see what sort of have conditions deteriorated significantly in certain roads, and do they need to be reprioritized on our capital improvements plan in terms of replacing the street surface or doing a full reconstruction.
You mentioned the water main breaks we've had, and just this past weekend we had that one Pepper and 8th.
Yeah.
Are we looking at having to upgrade some of our underground infrastructure because of these events?
Well, part of, and this gets at a strategy we've been addressing for some time in my tenure, has been investing in GIS, which is just getting a better understanding of what the age of our utilities are so we can better plan for those replacements going forward. Knowing that it isn't just age that determines when it's going to be replaced, it's usage and that sort of thing. So when we talk about are we going to be needing to do more? There's definitely a potential for it. The challenges in fiscal budgetary constraints that we're in, you can only do so much every year. And so you've got to really plan every year what your investments are going to be and make sure that those that are on the highest priority are the right investments to be making at that given year. Our road construction and street reconstructions are a number of years out. So we're going to continue to reevaluate those just to make sure we're actually constructing the highest priority ones this year.
Okay. Some big news, and I see in your community update, which I received in my email yesterday, you gave your thoughts on the Renaissance Learning Sale. Good news, bad news, or it sounds like it's a good deal for the city, and they've already committed to staying here. Have you had a chance to meet with the Hellman and Friedman?
I have not met with the new ownership group, but I know that they're going to be in and out of town over the course of the coming weeks and months as that sale continues to go through. They're pending closing it in second quarter of this year, so there's still some time yet for them to get through the acquisition phase. The scary part for our community that we've experienced, or uncertainty really, is when an ownership changes, there's oftentimes, we've seen with the paper industry in particular, restructuring, and as a result, job losses, etc. With this one, I don't predict that. In fact, Forbes on Friday, in the article that Forbes had published, had a statement from them directly stating that there's not going to be that downsizing, restructuring, or cost cutting that oftentimes is seen with an acquisition. They're looking, in fact, and they pointed it right out in the article, growing their headcount. So that's the facts. That's what's been reported, and so that is what I myself as a community leader really thinks is a positive. Everything else that's been reported, Jack Lynch, the CEO's comments regarding future expansion and growth in certain markets that around the world that they're trying to get their products in, that the new ownership company will be better positioned to give them more resources. That the previous ownership, Primera, from what we understand, was the only education investment that they had made. So it wasn't like that was their business, that was their kind of baby, if you will. So there's no question that this is going to present some promise for Renaissance Learning as a whole. And
then Google is still going to be a part of that
minority
investment.
owner in it, right?
And so we have a tech-based company with with support from
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, that's right. And that says something about the infrastructure that we have here in terms of marketing our city to potential other technology companies. That's that we have the infrastructure to support a company like that.
It's really a great story. We think about the history of Renaissance Learning in Judy Paul's basement, and kind of starting with that idea. And for us, decades later, they're still in operation. In fact, they're thriving and growing. It's really a story to tell. And for any other budding entrepreneur that's looking to start a tech company and do so in an environment that's one of the lowest costs of living in the state of Wisconsin and cities our size, in a community that does have the broadband infrastructure that you just referred to, with Solaris as an investment in fiber, and then couple that with kind of unparalleled quality of life. And so I think it's a great story for us as community leaders and community marketers to be telling the rest of the world, the outside world, say, hey, Wisconsin Rapids is a place where not only manufacturing and other companies can thrive and do business, but it's a place where tech companies can also manufacture their goods and their services and their software online and be able to distribute it worldwide, but yet keep their headquarters here and keep their costs low and be very competitive in the space. So it's really a great story for us. And I look forward to learning Renaissance Learning's plans to do more of kind of marketing to the tech community, if there's other businesses that could co-locate or assist them as they continue to grow.
Speaking of which, last week the North Central Wisconsin Workforce Development hosted a summit on the subject of information technology and the workforce.
Well, they've heard from employers not only in Wisconsin Rapids like Renaissance, but employers in Plover, Stevens Point, Wausau, all of which have had some challenges filling their IT jobs. And so whether it's Skyward or Collaborative Consulting in Wausau, et cetera, all have had similar challenges in attracting or recruiting or filling the positions. One of the things that struck me was North Central Technical College in Wausau has done an amazing job of placing their graduates in jobs immediately after completion of courses. In fact, oftentimes before it in apprenticeships. And so for us as community leaders, we need to make sure that we're enlisting other partners in this. Mid-State Technical College, North Central Technical College, the Workforce Board, even workforce development folks in Madison who are very concerned in particular about Renaissance, that they can find the right workers to fill their job openings. And if they can't, they're going to be hunting and shopping for other places to fill those jobs, whether it's in Minneapolis or whether it's in Madison or Chicago. So we have to do our darndest right here to make sure that we've got the right wheels in motion and the right partnerships so that these individuals, these graduates, or if they're existing workers and they're retraining them or retooling them to work in technology or software or support, in other roles.
And help to narrow those waiting lists for some of these popular programs. The governor just signed legislation trying to help that effort just the other day. That's a big, because people hear, well, there's jobs in the IT fields or in some of these other high-tech businesses. I'm going to get trained for that because I got laid off in the paper industry.
Right.
I need to be retrained for the new career. And then they're stuck waiting to get into class.
Right, especially if they're not close to retirement. The last thing that those workers want to do is sit on unemployment. I mean, they're ready to get back working again if they have the opportunity to apply their skills. And the quicker they can get retrained, it's a win-win for us. And that's our conversation with Renaissance. And my understanding with Stevens Point Mayor and others, that's their goal is first priority, right? Our own residents, if they can get placed in these positions before trying to bring somebody else from outside the community. Because what does that do for our unemployment rate? It does nothing. So we need to to do everything we can to make sure that those workers that are or laid off or displaced workers that are looking for work get the tools so they can be quickly put back to work again.
Okay. Common Council meeting last night, and there was a special presentation by the Director of U.S. Government Affairs for the Canadian National, that $25,000 grant award to the city for tree planting and beautification.
That's right. Yeah, CN. Kevin Soucy from D.C. came into town to present the city with a $25,000 grant. It was from a meeting that he and I had previously, recognizing, as I was learning about CN, I asked him, how are there programs that can assist local municipalities or cities with projects? And he presented the community investment program. And so I said, well, great, beautification, sustainability, those sorts of things are of interest to CN. And so we put in an application, a grant request, and we were successful in receiving the top award of $25,000. So that's going to assist our tree planting and beautification. In fact, next Tuesday, another invitation for residents to participate is to join us in our beautification council and to start making the decision about where are we going to spend the money, and in what areas of the community is going to be of benefit or recipient of the grant award. So there's a lot of interest potentially in doing trees, but shrubs, doing some things that just basic beautification. So I'd invite residents to join us for that meeting and to contact my office if they're interested.
Where is that meeting going to be held?
It's going to be right at City Hall. I don't have my calendar right in front of me, but I believe it's a week from today in the afternoon or early evening. So invite residents to participate in that, and we're grateful to CN for seeing the vision and recognizing that we're a beautiful community, but there are probably ways to improve it, like any community. And so we are very grateful that Kevin and his team were able to get that for us.
Well, with a lot of communities being concerned about the thing called the emerald ash borer, and everything else, this will come in handy if we're going to be facing.
All of our trees are ash trees, and they're targeted by the emerald ash borer, and so of course we've got to be prepared of what are we going to replace those things with, because we all know when we cut trees down, it's a noticeable thing, and we want to do our best to make sure we're prepared for it.
It's kind of interesting because those emerald ashes were planted in response to the Dutch elm disease that wiped out so much. When I remember as a kid seeing all these beautiful Dutch elm trees cut down around the city because of Dutch elm disease.
Okay.
So we've been down this road before, and those of you who are even older than me can remember those days. You gave a report on rapid improvement. Why don't you highlight some of the points for our radio audience this morning?
Well, this month is a year since the initiative was kicked off, formally with City Council approval. And at that point, Mid-State presented to the City Council how they could partner with the city to provide training for the city. And so the City Council approved it, and kind of forward-thinking, believing that there's room for improvement, whether it's incremental improvement or dramatic improvement in certain areas. So training our employees, and we trained 29 employees, myself included, and an alderperson, department heads and frontline employees in the methodology of Lean Six Sigma. And for those that work in manufacturing, recognize that there's a long history there.
Riverview Medical Center has made extensive use of that.
Yes, no question. And for them, it's been about reducing weight. So for us, you show up to the emergency room, reducing that weight from an hour, to a half or less, which is huge for all of us that are waiting to see a physician for something. So a lot of applications in the service business, and it's starting to make its way and inroads. And so we kicked off the training as we've talked about on the show before. We've got 7 projects going on right now involving all of our trainees, and 17 of those individuals who are leading the projects actually are going to be vying for certification. So they'll actually have a credential following the training, so beyond just learning the tools. And so those projects are in a number of areas, co-led by frontline employees and department heads alike. The projects are agenda and referrals, monthly brush pickup, which is a project that I'm involved in, business inspections, polymer usage at the wastewater treatment plant, special assessments. If there's a street reconstruction, we do special assessments, and so therefore that project has actually seen some results already too. Now they're doing an open house before the public hearing, before the street reconstruction is approved. And so one thing they learned was the more information we can get residents on a potential street reconstruction will reduce the amount of inquiries and phone calls and emails and visits to City Hall. So it's kind of a no-brainer, but we didn't know until we started asking the customer, our resident, saying, well, what information do you want from the city so you don't have to show up necessarily to these meetings if you just have a question on something? So that project actually has seen some kind of just the engineering department, I think, and others have been inspired by the fact that they are able to work on something kind of simple, but making a big difference for the amount of phone calls and visits they might get on a reconstruction. The other two other projects, there's one going on in the stock room, looking at the way in our street in the streets department in the city garage, the way that they process inventory, and so it's the first time really for them to analyze that process, and they've determined that there's 12 touches sometimes going on to get a product to a different department. So 12 times it's handled. Well, that's a lot. So now they're looking to reduce those touches from 12 down to 7 or less. So in some cases, almost halving what those touches might have been before. So, and then the last one is the library. And the library handles, as we all know, for patrons of the library, 750,000 materials a year. And if they're able to improve their efficiency on how they get those materials back to patrons, everyone's more happy, right? Because they get something a lot quicker than they would otherwise. So really happy about the results of the Lean Six Sigma continuous improvement program so far. So last night was our first formal opportunity to kind of bring it to the public and bring it to the city council and say, here's what we're showing. Now, a lot of these projects take months to complete because there's not a lot of data. For them to understand that things took 7 or 12 touches to get to City Hall or to its final destination took some time, and so they've measured these things. But thankfully, we're now paying attention to the customer, whether it's an internal department or somebody out in the public, and asking them, what would you like to see? And so things are improving in that respect. And in the case of the polymer usage program, they're looking to reduce expenses by half. And if they can do that, that's almost $70,000, $80,000 out of $170,000 that they can reprioritize something somewhere else in the wastewater treatment facility. So really big projects, a lot of promise, I think, and I'll tell you, it's been very inspiring to sit in these report out sessions where employees are standing up talking about their problem or project that they're working on, who's leading it, how they're working with other departments to solve it. So for the first time, I'm told by staff that they're working collaboratively with different departments and working for a solution, collective solution.
Well, the employees, and I've had the folks from Riverview here talk about it, and one of the things, employees are initially afraid of the process, but then they feel, after they learn what's involved, they feel empowered. For the first time, they're being asked, how could you do your job better? Instead of us telling you what to do, right. Could you tell us how you could?
Empowering them to make the decision.
Right.
That's it.
And one question that's been brought up, well, if this is such a great program, why don't we do it with all the city departments right now? From what I understand, with Riverview, it was implemented gradually through the culture. The nature of the process being, like you said, it's slow. It takes a while.
It's change.
What's the plan for the long-term plan for the city? Is it going to be eventually every department's going to go through something like this?
So we had the 29 that went through, really touched every department. I don't think there was any single department that wasn't participating in the training. So right now the steering team, who's really responsible for driving the initiative and making the decisions going forward, which is employees as well that participated in the training. Those people are meeting right now. The team is meeting to talk about who else can we train. In fact, Midstate informed us that there's some training dollars that were turned back, dollars that were not spent from the state grant. So we have the opportunity to train another crop of trainees. And actually, we're going to kick off training the second week of April. It's going to be more of a condensed, kind of a fundamentals training, so we can get employees that are, because surprisingly, there's employees anxious to learn it, and so if we can get them the skills and the tools, they can help assist some of these projects and start more projects. Right. The whole point of this is to keep a project pipeline going, so that way you can continuously work on projects.
Well, it's a culture of continuous improvement.
That's
from
right.
what I've been told
That's
by
exactly
a couple of the local black belts over at Riverview, and that's correct, people. That's if you're a Lean Six, you're the highest trained, you're a black belt.
Black belt, exactly. Yep. And our trainees, if they get certified, will be green belts. And
Okay.
so there's a path to climbing the belt chain. But for us, we've been very satisfied. I mean, there's really doesn't seem to be a major desire to get a bunch of people trained in much more advanced training. At some point, maybe having one or two people in the organization leading this with some higher skills and maybe better certification. But at this point, our goal is to just reach the organization and get enough of the employee base trained in understanding the principles of it so they can apply it to their everyday work. Alderperson Kellogg shared last night, he went through the training at the council meeting, and he said, it's been interesting because he has now approached just his everyday life differently just because he's learned a formal process improvement and just how he does things. So it was kind of eye-opening to hear him state that last night. But it goes to show that we all have something to improve upon, and why not take the opportunity as it relates to taxpayers to give them a better return and to send a message that we're committed and consistently looking at ways to do things better.
And that gets into one of the biggest complaints with any level of government from our job creators, local businesses. Hey, I want to get something done. I want to get a project done, and I got to go through so many darn hoops.
That's right.
Forget about it. Or I go to another community where I don't have to jump through so many hoops.
That's right.
So for the business community, will this help lead to a simplification so that when a business person comes to you or to City Hall and says, listen, we want to do this project, we want to do this expansion, give me what I need to know so we can get this thing going.
Well, that's a good point. And one of the projects that's kind of scratching the surface in that respect is the business inspection project being co-led by the police chief and the fire chief. And it's business inspections is the core focus, recognizing that some businesses in the city get up to 6 inspections done by city departments, any department, on a given year, annually, every year. And so their goal is to reduce their visits down to 1 or 2 visits per year while still maintaining the integrity of the inspection. So we're not saying we're not going to be there as frequent, but we're also going to make sure we're going to do the same things that we would accomplish in the 6 visits. So right now these departments are sharing information in the sense that they're working off the same database of businesses. They're also working with other departments, the assessor's department and the code enforcement department, because they're all inspecting independently today. So just actually last month, all businesses in the city got a letter indicating that we're looking to improve the business inspection process. And so they all have a postcard now that they are allowed to select a time that's best for them for the city to come. So we're not showing up at their doorstep, disrupting their operations when they've got business to do. So much more proactive approach. We're communicating with businesses proactively so they know when they can prepare for us. And they're also given a list of some of the common infractions. So if their exit sign has been burnt out, fix it before we come so we don't have to write you a warning and come back and re-inspect and all that sort of thing. So, it's better use of departmental resources. And if they are doing inspections more effectively, number one, the business wins, right? Because we're knocking on their door fewer times and we're getting in their way less times. But also the department then is able to do other things with that time. And that's what this is all about. It's just freeing up resources to be used in more effective ways.
And from a business standpoint, for instance, here at the station, our engineer would be the person that deals with the fire department when they come here for their inspection. Having that list and being, okay, they're going to be here tomorrow, let's double check and see what needs to be brought up to speed here or whatever. It would be very, very helpful.
Yep. Right.
And doing it when we're not swamped with people at the front counter and your consumer-based services, I would imagine, would love that.
That's right. I mean, I'm looking at the list of common infractions. It's, kitchen hood system, is it cleaned by a technician within 1 year? Something that, if a business owner doesn't realize that time flies and they don't have it scheduled, well, that's something that they can be cited for, or it could be a common code violation. Power strips with no circuit breaker, overuse of extension cords, some of these real common things that they see, proactively letting the business owner know that we still need to comply with state and municipal codes, but we want to give you a kind of a heads up to solve these issues before we come.
Okay, we're going to take our first break this hour. The phone lines are open if you'd like to talk to the mayor. Maybe you have a question involving this area of rapid improvement or something else. Give us a call at 424-2600, pound 1320 on your U.S. cellular phone. You're listening to The Morning Magazine on AM 1320, as well as on the web at WFHR.com. It's brought to you by Riverview Medical Center. With you, it's personal and comfort air.
Good morning and welcome back to The Morning Magazine. Presented by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing, and Riverview Hospital in Wisconsin Rapids. It's time for part 2. Once again, here's Carl Hilke.
Thanks again, Jerry, and the phone lines are open again. If you'd like to talk to Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink, 424-2600, pound 1320 on your U.S. cellular phone. Talking about rapid improvement and the like. Any other highlights from the council that you wanted to touch on?
We've got a new liquor store application that the council approved last night for Richard's Liquors on A Street across from Arby's, so a new business that's locating down there. I think he's going to be open. He's shooting, I think, for an election day open, actually, the 1st of April or right around there is what Zachary Coleman's doing. So kind of a young entrepreneur, not much older than me, so I commend him for his efforts. Other than that, there was a few things that were approved on the HR committee related to emergencies and when the city hall might close in case of bad weather, inclement weather,
right?
And how that work goes. And then there was a referral that I made to the Common Council for the next meeting in April, which will be the last meeting of this current term and potentially the last meeting that I'll chair. But that would be the social media policy that a lot of work has gone into between myself, HR director, the city attorney, and our communications intern in developing our social media policy for the city. And so that will come to the council for their approval and for their review. And it really covers the whole gamut of how the city will operate its social media presence, recognizing that there's some, due diligence and a policy that really should govern that. So we're going to bring that to the council then in April.
Well, social media, that's something businesses are all getting involved with,
right.
Facebook and Twitter and Skype.
In cities, I was shocked. The Legislative Reference Bureau out of Madison just directed municipalities, kind of their views on how municipalities should be approaching social media. So for us, we're a little bit cutting edge. There's a lot of cities that are way ahead of us in the state already that have done social media in terms of communicating with the public. But we're proud to finally getting to actually make this come to reality. The city has their Facebook page, and I'd encourage residents that are on Facebook to like the City of Wisconsin Rapids for updates like the water main break and those sorts of things to make residents more aware of what's going on.
And also, I would urge people to sign up for Nixle. And you don't need a smartphone. All you need is text capability. So if you have a basic cell phone with text capability, you can get a Nixle alert, which is what I got about the water main break over the weekend. Yep. And I'll tell you, water main break, pepper and detours in effect. Be aware of, a simple, quick message. That way you know what's going on. Let's talk about a special breakfast that you're inviting area businesses to.
Yeah. So at the State of the City address in January, I announced that the city has a partnership with Google to get local businesses online, recognizing that businesses that are not online oftentimes are at a disadvantage because people that are online can't find them. So one simple way for us to get our local small businesses a bit more traffic potentially and more business, right? The more business they get, the more people they hire, and the rest goes on and on. So we're hosting a breakfast before business a week from Thursday, a week from tomorrow, at the Hotel Mead, and it's being sponsored by Media Shower, and so it's free of charge to residents and all businesses, whether they're in the city or not, to attend the breakfast before business from 7 to 8 o'clock on Thursday, March 27th. Because there's food being served, breakfast being served, they do require an RSVP, so that can be done by calling City Hall or going online. I can read off the address. It's tinyurl, tinyurl.com/GYBO. Get your business online is what it stands for, GYBO breakfast. And so that'll get people online to a form, or if they're not online, in this case, call the office and they can RSVP. But this is our partnership with Google and the partnership to get Wisconsin Rapids businesses online.
Well, it can be critical, especially for our newer business as they're getting started and they might not have the dollars.
That's right.
To invest right away in a media presence. This can help them big time.
Just a real basic way just to get them online. It's not meant to compete or replace what other people might already be doing online, but everyone knows that you could use a refresh at times. So if you're already online, there might be some things you might pick up and learn from this business breakfast before business event as well. So we're excited that Media Shower is sponsoring it. The Heart of Wisconsin Chamber of Commerce is a partner, as is CAP Services, and of course us, the City of Wisconsin Rapids.
Okay. We got our first first caller
Excellent.
of the morning, so we'll get right to it. Good morning. You're on the air with Mayor Vruwink.
Good morning. Excuse me. I'm calling in regards to. I was on the road and I was listening to the station there, and Did you get money from a railroad company?
The city received a $25,000 grant from CN, correct?
Well, was anything discussed about the railroad crossings around here?
That actually, the county is considering an ordinance on that. In fact, that was actually a little bit discussed after the meeting, but it wasn't related to the beautification grant that the city received.
No, I'm sure it wasn't, but I was just curious if they were, off to the side talked about the crossings around here.
We did have a conversation. I know the representative, Kevin, was actually going to be meeting with the city of Marshfield this morning to talk about their ordinance. They've got an ordinance about blocking the crossings. Is that what you're referring to specifically?
No, I'm talking about in the city here. Like, they did a beautiful job on 5th Avenue and 34. They did a beautiful job on on Bono Avenue.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
They did a beautiful job right there by the station on 25th.
Yep.
But all they do is a bunch of patchwork, crappy patchwork on 17th Avenue.
17th Avenue, okay. Well, he did extend an invitation for us to refer, so 17th, that crossing there. I can't remember has it been this winter, you think, where it's gotten worse?
No, it's been that way for a long time.
Okay, we'll definitely get that over to Kevin for his review and his team's review. I know he did make a comment that a lot of the crossings have been upgraded, but this might have been one that is slated, and we'll find out if it's not slated, that we encourage them to take another look at it.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Thanks for the call.
Thank you for the call.
Yep, bye-bye.
Bye. And that's how things happen. Sometimes in the course of crossings can get overlooked. Did we get every crossing? I think so.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's all, I would imagine it's dependent upon the amount of train traffic and other things. There's, of course, the economics of it. So
17th, that's pretty busy.
It is, no question. And I don't remember driving over that one noticing anything different, but I'll take a drive myself.
But the other thing that's talking about, since you mentioned railroads, everyone's concerned about those darn train horns. People have complained about that through multiple mayors I've had on this show. And I go, do they have to blow those things so long? And
so
why?
Long and loud.
And why Marshfield doesn't seem to have that problem? What?
In order for a crossing to be designated a quiet crossing, you have to have an island in the road, so you can't go around the barricade. So when you come up to a crossing, if there's no train horn, you don't have somebody trying to drive around it. The point is, of course, safety, right? They blow the horns to alert people that there's a train approaching. But the rules and the policies and the law that states today that we have to, in order for us to designate a crossing or multiple crossings, quiet crossings, we have to put an island in there so people cannot get around the arms that come down. So it's very expensive.
I was going to say,
the Public Works Committee has just taken a look at this because we've gotten a lot of questions about train horns. Different conductors have some liberty in how they blow the horn.
Oh, you can say that again.
So we've had some discussion with the railroad about certain day parts, in the evening, where it just seems they're a bit excessive. And so I've had conversations with Kevin and some others to say, you know what, are you sure you're blowing them in accordance with your own policy? And so we're taking. They did take a look at it, but there's nights sometimes when I'm laying in bed and you can really hear them, and I'm not next to a track, so I can imagine those that are right next to us pretty loud.
Okay. Like I said, that's been a long time complaint of city residents. But okay, let's get back to the phone calls because your constituents want to talk to you. Good morning. You're on the air with the mayor. It's
not just the train horns. What about blocking the crossings?
Okay, there we go.
That's a good point. Yeah, so the county is taking a look at that. In our conversations last night, my understanding, and I didn't read it, and I'm not an attorney or a judge to interpret it, but there is a federal law that prevents, citing the railroad for blocking a crossing. It gives them the authority that in the case of emergency or something where they can block. However, I did learn that they have a policy that they try to adhere to internally, and then not to block the crossing for a long period of time. And it's no more than 10 minutes that a train would be stopped. Now, if the train is moving, that's a different story. Even if it's just slightly crawling, but 10 minutes is their internal guide that they try not to block anything past 10 minutes. So that's an internal policy.
And when they do, it seems like just on the street down here, sometimes when they're doing their switching, it's at the 4 o'clock time when everybody's leaving, and you get a line of traffic and I'm going, great time to do some switching, guys.
That's right, and you bring up a very valid point, Carl, because that's one of the major issues with that crossing, particularly on West Grand and the Expressway, is because it's so close to a shipping yard. And we were informed last night, back to the conversation about winter, that because the winter has been so hard, and we all know, we just talked about streets, it's also been very less forgiving on the railroad. The tracks have changed, and in some sort of the elevation, and not as level as they were, so they have to run shorter trains and more frequent trains. Well, what does that mean? That means more trains at crossings and potentially more switching if they're switching and combining to a unit train, those sorts of things. So this winter has been hard not only on cities and those plowing snow and all that, but also on the railroad. And he talked about because they need more trains, they needed more conductors, and they needed more conductors. They pulled people out of offices actually to run trains that had been previously conductors and engineers to run them, because when you have more trains, of course, you got to have more conductors.
And then that leads to questions about safety. I mean, if you've got heaving tracks, could we be looking in some derailments down the? I'm sure they're concerned about.
That's right. And there was an incident in northern Wisconsin where that happened, and I don't know if it was a CN line or what it was, but I remember reading an article that between Superior up in that area that the tracks heaved and it really created a mess.
Okay, so it's bad on roads, bad on railroad tracks, but I'm glad we touched on this, and I thank the caller for bringing up the blocking of the crossings. That's also nobody likes to wait, but especially if you're if there's an emergency and people are concerned about when emergency vehicles are trying to get. Did you have a chance? Because we had a caller.
Did talk. So that's a good point. You bring that back up. The fire department said that the caller that referred to the potential concern did not have an issue in terms of responding. They may have been waiting on the west side of the railroad tracks to get to the west side of town yet, because it was cut off in the middle by the Centralia Center. The east side fire station was able to respond appropriately and just in the normal response time. So there was no concern of not being able to respond quickly.
Okay. Well, we got to take our final break, and then we'll be back with more with Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink here on the Morning Magazine on AM 1320 and WFHR.com. Thank you, Sam. Cloudy and 34 here at AM 1320. Welcome back to the Morning Magazine. We're visiting with Wisconsin Rapids Mayor Zach Vruwink, and I was telling him, like many offices, and I'm sure maybe if you're listening to me in another office, the bracket pool has begun.
Bracketology.
The bracketology. Everybody, and then everybody's going on that site to try and see if they can win $1 billion.
I see that, the commercial for Quicken Loans.
From what's
Quicken Loans or something?
Well, it's Quicken Loans it's the millionaire. The billionaire who's putting up the money.
Okay.
I forgot the name. Yeah. That's what happens when you get old.
It happens to me too.
Well, okay. But so it's that time of the year, and it's fun, and it's just be responsible. Don't get too crazy. Okay. We're wrapping up, and this is going to be officially your last show of your first of your term in office. And if you're back next month, like I said, we're going to continue this, regardless who wins.
That's right.
This has been a tradition with me and City Hall, and it will continue. That's one thing that won't change, regardless of the election. But what do you have anything? Some top goals that you're trying to accomplish in the time remaining?
Time remaining. Well, we've got a number of. We've got the ordinance control officer that position. They just completed interviews of that, so that person will be hired very soon and starting and get their feet on the ground to be more effective, and so we're excited about that program. The other one is a GIS specialist, and an offer has been extended and the person accepted, and so that person will be starting as well in the coming weeks. So good times for them to start as the snow starts melting and spring approaches, for them to get their feet underneath them and get working.
GIS, for the layman or person who doesn't know what that means, why don't we explain what that person
Geographic information system for it can be anything. So if anyone looks at the county's website, for example, the county has invested in this for a long time, for them for anybody to locate property tax bills, or the parcel map is all for the whole county, the entire county. So if anyone wants to look up a parcel online, realtors in particular use it a lot to see what the fair market value is or assessed value of certain parcels are. So the entire county. The other piece that they're working on, and it's a collaborative that we're working on with Water and Light, City of Marshfield, the county, and the City of Rapids, is every so many years they have to refly over the cities or the area to get a better imagery because things change, right?
Sure.
New streets get put in, streets get reconstructed, etc. So that project is actually starting to get underway, and so we're looking at costs, and it's much cheaper if you partner with others to do it, and so it's a smart investment from that standpoint that we're being responsible, in terms of the fiscal matters in this situation.
Well, you mentioned, so you're partnering. That seems to be a trend with municipalities, that we're going to see more and more partnering.
No question.
And then, like you mentioned, the grant from CN and other grants that you can get to help do special things. And then because of tight budgets, the money that the city taxpayers' money is going to have to be spent on essential items, and the nice stuff is we're going to have to develop partnerships.
That's right.
Or get grants or what have you.
And that's exactly what it's about, whether it's our Lean Six Sigma process improvement initiative, that realizing that the city taxpayer shouldn't always foot the bill entirely. So leaning on other sources for funding. And in this case, it was state funds that came back to the municipality, so it was a good story because we're all state taxpayers as well, just like a county, city, and school district, and technical college, etc. So those types of things will have to continue to be the norm, and that's something that by me being able to connect with other municipalities and other entities that we've been very focused about is what sort of investment or resources can we get in our own community. So those are very important because oftentimes these are new dollars that may not find their way to Wisconsin Rapids, and you have to really be aggressive in searching for them because number one, it's a better return on our tax dollar if you can match outside funds and bring it into the city and do something special.
Well, companies do that on a regular basis.
Right.
They have people in corporate bureaucracies whose job is to see if there's tax incentives available or some other type of funding or partnership so they can accomplish certain things.
It. Yep.
So
another project that we're working on yet is announced at the State of the City was getting city services available online. It's kind of an ongoing evolution. Getting it's the Grow Rapids portal. We're working with the programmers right now, working locally, trying to get Midstate or UWSP to take it on as a class project. So there wouldn't be any cost to the taxpayer to foot that. There's budgeted monies to potentially do that, but if we can do it get students a project and it works well, great. That'd be a win-win for both the city and for the students or the technical college in that case. So that project is ongoing, and we should have that up in middle of April, where businesses will be able to go to Grow Rapids and get their information that they might need for development. You've
been having a number of sessions of coffee with the mayor. Your next one is March 26th at Four Star Family Restaurant from 7:30 a.m. until 8:30 a.m. Who's showing up at these breakfasts, and what kind of input are you getting?
It's a variety of people, whether they're city residents or not. People come in and ask questions about what's happening in the city. So we've had from one person all the way up to 8 people at the coffee shop one day. And they're just another avenue that people may not want to make an appointment to stop in and see the mayor, or may not want to make a trip to City Hall and stop up and see me, or call on the radio show. So it gives opportunity for residents to come and interact with me and ask a question or give me frank feedback, which is always welcome. But just another opportunity for people to meet with the mayor. And I think, as we talk about accessibility and how important it is for the mayor, I'm everywhere that I can be, and I can only be in one place at a time. So when I'm on the radio, I can't be in my office. So, or if I'm out at an event in the community, I can't be in my office. So just an opportunity for people on their own schedule, this case before work potentially, to stop by, have a cup of coffee, and interact with myself.
Okay. Well, we are on the national map this week with the USA Curling Championships.
Very
exciting. I call it the 2014 Mixed National Championship at the Southwood County Recreation Center. USA Curling putting it on, hosted by the Tri-City Curling Club. You had a chance to take part in the opening ceremony on Saturday for that. Big event for our city.
It was 10 states from all over the country, from as far east and west coast to staying right at the Hotel Meade for the whole week. And so they're competing, obviously, for the top championship. And it was very exciting because, there's a number of members on every team, so it's got a pretty good reach. And it just demonstrates, again, to to not only the curling group, but to others that we're a community that can host these sorts of things. We've got a great rec center in the hockey rink, and they brought in special ice. It was very kind of unique. You watch curling during the Olympics, and to have a national championship right in our own community is awesome. And tonight they're going to have their reception. I've got to speak at their reception, but really great group, a large group of people. It was nice. It's also something where the community can come out and watch it for free. There's no cost to watch the championship, and I'm not sure if that has a website or something on it, but they can go online and search for the Mixed Nationals Championship.
Yeah, and USA Curling happens to be headquartered in Stevens Point.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, but Tri-City Curling and Discover Wisconsin Rapids worked hard to get that event, and these events are very important in promoting a city.
Absolutely, because oftentimes this might be the first time that they would be in Wisconsin Rapids, and again, may not have any other reason to come here other than an event like this. And heck, that might be a place, if they're a business owner, that might think, gosh, maybe Wisconsin Rapids looks like a community that they'd want to maybe consider for a growth or an expansion or anything like that. I mean, so it's exposure on the baseline. It's a good event because it's exposing the city of Wisconsin Rapids to new eyes.
Yeah, and like I said, the rest of us all need to be good ambassadors.
That's right.
As when Laura was here with the folks from Tri-City, and we talked about that. Hey, welcome these folks, because their tournament booklet has a list of all these different businesses that are welcoming these folks, and you might have to wait a little while longer for dinner or something like that, because
if you're at the Mead particularly, I know this last weekend they were full. They had the steel guitar event in town, obviously the curling event, and they also had the wrestling tournament happening over at Lincoln. So a lot of people in our community from different parts of the state and obviously the country, as we just talked about, all taking part in what Wisconsin Rapids has to offer. And then we got local groups. Yesterday I spoke to Ocean Spray. They're having their Rapids plant employee meetings over there yesterday and today, and some learning and some fun and et cetera. So it's a really not only a tremendous asset for our community under their new ownership, and really forward thinking and trying to become more competitive as a place to hold events and meetings.
Okay, in terms of attracting businesses, how are we doing? It's been announced the potato flake plant is coming down the road from here.
Work is underway there already.
Okay.
A dozen employees initially, and looking to grow. That'll be their entire contract, and in fact they're already talking about their next phase and what they can do to expand already, because the contract takes all the capacity that they're going to produce just in that one.
What's the name of the company again?
It's Wisconsin Dehydration is their local name, but they're part of they've got operations in many states.
Okay.
So this is going to be their first plant in Wisconsin.
Oh, well, so that's good for us.
And hopefully their only plant in Wisconsin, if we can
get
them
and keep it
everything
growing.
They need. And I know there's next to the building, it's in the former Ruan transportation facility. And for them, there's some growth opportunities, some space in there for them to grow, but not much. And so if they're going to grow much more, they're going to have to expand the facility. And of course, that's a good thing to the industrial park, good thing for the community. But they were, my conversation with them is, why Rapids? And they said, I'll tell you, one of the cheapest facilities in the parts of the state for them to buy a building that had everything that they needed. The location was great, and just the cost of operations. They've got an available workforce here that they can hire people really quickly and spin up their operations. They're going to be already producing this stuff in April. I mean, it's unbelievable how quickly they're working round the clock, even thawing the ground around the facility just to get going.
That's amazing. And then anything new on the East Commerce Center site?
Nothing to report on this show, no.
Okay. Well, but like I said, folks, you never know when somebody walking around the community might be somebody.
That's right.
Looking at that site, or a site over here in the West Side Industrial Park, or some other.
It's been kind of a run on buildings over here, it feels like, which is a good thing.
Hey, I like the growing neighborhood.
That's right.
We should have a gigantic potluck.
A block party or something.
Yeah, there's an idea.
Yep.
You organize it, I'll be there.
That's right.
Okay. Well, I guess so. Take advantage. If you haven't been out to the curling tournament, you don't have to know curling. Go out there and just buy some souvenirs and
no charge
and say hi. And then of course we got the Rafters baseball season, and they're in the process of they're hiring stadium personnel right now, as well as they got an internship program this year for college students.
Oh, excellent! Good.
So
exciting stuff on the forefront for them too, with John now leading the cause over there, and Liz is now in Green Bay, and Yep, change of face.
Yeah. Okay. Well, this is going to wrap up. This officially ends your term. At least,
On your show, right?
right. And it's been fun. And I wish you well. I wish Mary Jo Carson well. And whoever wins, you're welcome to come back.
Sitting in this seat.
That's right. And it's a new seat.
Yep, it is. Yeah, perfect timing.
Yeah, right, perfect timing. Well, have a good rest of the week and
Thank
a
you,
good
as
month.
well.
And we'll talk to you down the road.
That's right. Wish the Assumption girls luck tomorrow
That's
in their
right.
competition down at state, and hope they do well and continue on.
We can wear red, white, and blue.
That's
red for
right.
the Badgers and blue for the
Assumption Royals. Very
Assumption
good.
Royals. We'll be patriotic. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, sir.
And that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Morning Magazine on AM 1320 and WFHR.com. It's been brought to you by Riverview Medical Center and Comfort Air.